Hello and welcome on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick. We got a lot to break down tonight. That didn't work too terribly well, did it? Thomas Brown comes in as interim head coach, the first interim head coach in Chicago Bears history, and the Bears absolutely get destroyed out in San Francisco. We will discuss that game. We'll talk about who looked worse, the offense or the defense. What might possibly be coming up for the Bears? Is there any hope left for this season? Elsewhere, the Blackhawks made a similar move, getting rid of their head coach, Luke Richardson. And unfortunately, it resulted in similar things for them over the weekend as well, as they hosted the Winnipeg Jets and lost that game in not quite the same fashion, but similarly bad fashion. And then the winter meetings are upon us in baseball. There's already been one huge signing in MLB. What could be up for the Cubs and the White Sox this week? We'll talk about that. All that and more coming up right now on Chi-Town Weekly. And once again, hello and good evening, everyone. I am your host, Adam Karnick. So glad that you could be here with us tonight for the latest installment of Chi-Town Weekly. We got a lot to get through in the show tonight. Of course, we're going to be talking Bears. We're going to be breaking down that disaster out in San Francisco that went on yesterday, that horrible loss. Not the start that the Thomas Brown era was hoping for, not the jump start we were hoping to see. We're also going to talk about the Chicago Blackhawks. They also got on the bandwagon, fired their head coach, Luke Richardson. We'll break down that move, as well as take a look at Anders Sorenson, their new interim head coach. They're also playing out in Madison Square Garden tonight, so we'll keep an eye on them as things are going. And then the winter meetings are starting up this week for baseball. They are down in Dallas. The general managers and presidents are all gathering and meeting there, so there will be lots of trade rumors and trades and free agent rumblings going on, so we'll kind of set the stage for that a little bit as well. Lots to get to here on Chi-Town Weekly tonight, but we'll start things off with a quick word from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Thank you to everybody hanging out and checking out the show with us here tonight. Whether you are watching the show live on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, thank you for being here. Or if you're one of those people that is listening to the show later on in the week as a podcast, whether or not it's Apple Podcast or Google Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, Spreaker, wherever it is you get your podcast, thank you for being here. You heard how to follow along with the station on all the social media platforms. This show is also available for you on social media. We are on Twitter at IESRC, or you can follow along with me personally. I am at Adam Karnick on Twitter, or you can follow me on Blue Sky. I am at Adam K87 over there. That was a rough one yesterday. That certainly was not the shot in the arm that we were hoping would happen when Thomas Brown took over as the first interim head coach for the Chicago Bears in team history. You know, you're going back to World War II was the last time they had to do something like this, and that was because Papa Bear went off to serve in World War II. The Bears went out to San Francisco and not just lost, but got absolutely destroyed in the process, losing to San Francisco 38-13. Just a terrible, awful game. Oh yeah, I want to say a quick hello to everybody. If you're watching the show live, hop on drop us a chat wherever you're watching on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. Just drop us a line, say hello. Good evening, Yukio, watching from Japan. Good evening or early morning to you, sir, as you're watching over there. Taryn Rodriguez, good evening. Yeah, we're going to try our best to have some fun tonight. Ralph Calise, tuning in on Twitter, good evening. And then Andre from Dre Area Sports, What's up? He and I previewed the game last week. Yeah, he was having a great time watching the game. I imagine that was that was a great game for the 49ers yesterday. Andre commented partway during the game yesterday. He brought up something with seating for the 49ers, and this was in the middle of the second quarter. And I wanted to write back that it's downright disrespectful to be already looking ahead midway through the second quarter of this game, but at the same time, I can't blame you because that one was over. That game was over so fast. I made the comment to a few different people that, at least this way, the way the Bears lost, at least they didn't, at least it wasn't, a variation on a theme of, well, how are they going to blow it and lose on the last play this time? That game was over and done with so fast. Oh my goodness. That was everything about that game was terrible, from the absolute inability to get anything done defensively, and then offensively to just the incompetence that was there. And Andre commenting, he didn't expect the Bears to be so unbalanced offensively, and that they were focusing too much on the pass instead of trying to run the ball. Well, that is one thing under Thomas Brown. That is, if you're going to make a general complaint about Thomas Brown, the offensive coordinator before becoming the interim head coach, was they really struggled to run the ball. That Caleb Williams kind of became the leading rusher, which is not how you want it to work. That DeAndre Swift really has struggled the last few weeks running the ball with Thomas Brown as the play caller, whether it's been as the offensive coordinator or as the interim head coach. They've flashed the stat up there at halftime of the Bears having just 4 yards of offense, and it reminded me of another trip out to San Francisco that the Bears made about 26 years ago or so, where it was another just absolute thrashing at the hands of the 49ers back when Terrell Owens was still on the team. And I think he had like 250 yards and 3 touchdowns in the game. But in that particular game, Cade McNown was the Bears quarterback, and they failed to cross midfield the entire game. That's what that reminded me of yesterday. It was just everything about that looked terrible. And it begged the question to me is, who looked worse? The Bears coaching staff, everything has gotten very shuffled up as of late. Obviously, you've got Thomas Brown getting moved up from passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator to interim head coach. You've got Eric Washington taking over while it's not a position change for him, he's still defensive coordinator, but now he's taking over the play calling duties. You have Chris Beatty moving up from wide receiver coach to offensive coordinator, but he's still holding on to his wide receiver coach duties. You've had all this shuffling and all this change going on with the team. And this is what the players wanted. This is what the players had been asking for. They got it. And it did not work yesterday at all. You cannot say that it was successful, that any part of that was successful. All right, Rome Odunze had a couple of touchdown grabs. That was nice. The first time he'd scored a touchdown since week 3 against the Colts. Nice to see that connection get made and some things happening there. But, so which Which segment of the team looked worse yesterday, the offense or the defense? Thomas Brown obviously remaining the play caller, Eric Washington taking over as the defensive play caller. Obviously, a lot of the attention and the focus gets placed on the offense. And when you only manage 4 yards and a half and you only manage 13 points in a game, a lot of things are going to fall there, and rightfully so. But the defense should not get a pass. And I would actually say that Eric Washington looked worse than Thomas Brown did yesterday. And here's my rationale. Here's my thinking on that. The offense has been a problem for the Bears all throughout this losing streak. You know, it's now a 7-game losing streak, 8 consecutive weeks where the Bears have not won a game. You know, you've got to go back when they take the field next week. It'll have been 9 weeks since they last won a game. You know, that trip out to London sure feels like a long time ago. And that 3-game winning streak feels like it was eons ago, as the Bears just keep crumbling and falling apart here as this season continues. But we've known that the offense was a problem. Obviously, this is easily the worst overall that the offense has looked all season. But they've been having this problem all season long of not being able to get out of the gates strong. They're still the worst scoring team in the first quarter in the NFL. Fox put up the statistic yesterday of the Bears are the worst scoring first half team in the league. But so this was the worst they've looked, but it's still somewhat par for the course. Defensively, meanwhile, this was atrocious. They did nothing well defensively. Brock Purdy looked like an all-pro quarterback yesterday. George Kittle is somewhere. George Kittle is still running routes, getting just wide open. And all the talk going into the week in fantasy football circles, at least, was, oh man, go pick up Isaac Guerrero because he's about to have a monster game. And sure enough, Isaac Guerrero, while from a fantasy perspective, had himself a superb game. Now, some of that is a little inflated. He had a 1-yard touchdown run, but he had 2 touchdown carries. And the Bears just once again could not contain the run. That was about as terrible defensively as we have seen. As Matt posts on Facebook, the defense has kept the Bears in the game all season. So the defense was the more disappointing thing. The offense is a problem, but the defense has got to be the bigger disappointment from yesterday. And thanks for tuning in, Matt. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, that was so depressing how the defense just had no answers for anything. And we talked last week about how if Kyle Shanahan were to somehow get cut loose from the 49ers, you should go grab him in an instant. And he showed you why yesterday. The Niners were down so many pieces. Both their top 2 running backs, their starting tackles were down. Their best pass rusher was down. They had injuries up and down. They were in the middle of a 3-game losing streak, and they were it was looking like the Niners were primed to fall apart. One more loss could have been the thing that knocked them over. And instead, Shanahan was able to rally the troops, but then also just put together the better game plan all the way around. The Bears absolutely got out coached. Yes, Andre, the Niners ran through the Bears like diarrhea. Ugh. Yeah, it was sickening watching that Bears game yesterday. That was disgusting to watch. But you can't excuse the players for any of this either. That as a lot of people have brought up and mentioned, this is exactly what the players wanted. You got rid of all the bad eggs. You got rid of Shane Waldron. You got rid of Matt Eberflus. You got Thomas Brown, the guy that everybody said they wanted being in charge of the show. He's in charge of the show. And you came out as flat as you've looked all season. It does absolutely nothing to instill any kind of confidence. And this was supposed to be the game where it's all right. If they're going to take one of these last 5, this is going to be the one. You certainly don't feel like it's going to be the one next week. Now the Bears get to conclude their 3-game road trip by going up to Minnesota next Monday night to play the Vikings, a Vikings team that they just played 3 weeks ago, that played one of its best games of the season yesterday. Admittedly, it was a more inferior opponent than what the Bears were playing. But at the same time, it's not like the Niners have been one of the best teams in the league. They were on a 3-game losing streak going into this one. Now you're facing a 49ers team that is coming off of just a destruction of the Atlanta Falcons. Sam Darnold is playing red hot. Jordan Addison has had himself a couple of fantastic weeks. You're in trouble here going into this one. That's kind of the feeling going into this one next week. They played them close a few weeks ago. We'll see how they're able to rally, how they're able to reconvene. You've got extra time. It's a Monday night game, so you've got a little bit of extra time to set up for this one. You'll have the day off, players' day off tomorrow. I believe they'll have another one on Wednesday. And then it'll be Thursday, Friday, Saturday that they'll be doing things to get ready for this game. And then heading up to Minneapolis, probably either Saturday or Sunday for the game on Monday night. But you've got your work cut out for you. The Niners have figured things out. They are staying tight in that division race already with 11 wins. Somehow the Bears are still alive in the playoff hunt. I genuinely do not know how, as we're looking here. So the Bears, somehow they could still theoretically get in. I genuinely don't know how, because the best they can do now is 8-9. You're guaranteed your 4th straight losing year, your 11th non-winning season in the last 12 years, and you're one more loss away from your 4th straight double-digit loss season. This is bad. This is bad all the way around for this team. A quick programming note, by the way, with the game being next Monday night, basically going on right now, I will not be doing the show during this time. My plan right now is that I will come on as soon as the game is over and do a quick Monday night recap, basically a Bears reaction, instant reaction show next Monday night. So a quick quick programming note. Next week, the show will be going on probably around 10:15, 10:30 Central Time, Monday night next week. Probably won't do a whole hour. Probably will just do a 30 or 45 minute show, just a Bears reaction show, and then call it a game. Yeah, and Matt mentioning that, Aaron Jones is still better than the running back duo that the Niners put out there yesterday. So if the Bears struggled against that yesterday, my goodness, Aaron Jones, he could put up 100, 150 yards easily on the Bears next week. So the losing continues for the Bears, and right now there's no good end in sight for it, unfortunately. Hopefully something will turn around. We'll see what Thomas Brown can do this week with a slightly more regular week to prepare, but not a great start yesterday to the Thomas Brown interim head coach era. The Bears weren't the only ones shaking things up, though, this past week. The Chicago Blackhawks also got in on the act and fired their head coach last week, and for similar reasons, and it kind of had similar results over the weekend. We will talk Blackhawks next here on Chi-Town Weekly, part of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We will be right back after this.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and a weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you with the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick back with you here. We broke down the Bears and everything that changed there with them and all the bad from this past week. Now we want to shift gears. The Bears, of course, have not been the only ones to be changing head coach here in the recent weeks. The Blackhawks also made a big change at head coach last week as well, firing Luke Richardson. The parallels between the Bears and the Hawks, it's almost scary how similar the situations are. I mean, you had Luke Richardson, who was partway into his third season, just like Matt Eberflus was overseeing what was obviously a rebuild at the very beginning of his tenure. And then ultimately you had some overachieving success early, but then it just did not pan out the further and further and further in that you got to the tenure. The Hawks were 8-16-1 under Richardson this season. Now they were not necessarily thinking that they were going to be locks for the playoffs by any means this season, but at least the thinking was, all right, this is a team that should be competitive, should be somebody that's in the conversation for a playoff spot. But they just could not get anything done, and especially offensively, just no offense this season. Coming into play tonight, the Hawks had the third fewest goals scored in the NHL. And if you go by goals per game, they were the second lowest in the NHL, not even getting 2.5 goals a night, averaging 2.4 goals a game on the season. Their special teams was actually decent. Their power play had improved. They were just under 1 in 4 power plays converting, 10th in the league. I think it was 23.8%, something like that. They were number 10 in the league on the power play. So it's not the specialty. Now they're not getting a ton of opportunities, only 17 power play goals on the year. That's middle of the road, but they're taking advantage of the opportunities as they get them. That's the nice thing that you're seeing there. The problem is they just 5-on-5. They just could not get anything done offensively. Just no scoring. And the most damning part of all for Luke Richardson, and this is Kyle Davidson, the general manager, put some resources in there this season. This is the third oldest roster in the NHL right now. He made some moves he was very aggressive to try to get some more established NHL players in here to try to help jumpstart this a little bit. Now you can argue that the guys they've brought in haven't really gelled well together, and that certainly is part of the problem. And so that's something that you're going to need to look at. But the most damning part of all for Richardson is that Connor Bedard has regressed and has gone backwards in a bad way. We've heard him even talk about how frustrated he's been with this season, and he got got moved out of the center spot and was moved out to the wing in an effort to try and take some responsibility off of him and jumpstart him a little bit. He's still leading the team in points. He's got 20 points on the season, but only 5 goals to this point through 27 games. That is, only 2 power play goals. Just, you're not seeing the results there. Ryan Donato currently leading the team with 10 goals coming into play tonight. Not what you were wanting, hoping, or expecting for this team. And Ricky, I do see Ricky, our host of our New York show. I see your question there, sir. We will get to that here in a little bit. As the Hawks now tonight, so far, they're in Madison Square Garden. And right now it's looking good. At the end of 2, they are up 2-1, but this has been where the wheels kind of fall off for the Blackhawks. They'll get 2 goals in the first 2 periods, and then that third period, it is a struggle for the Hawks. You talk about in hockey, it's you need to get to 4, got to get to 4 goals, get that 4th goal. For the Hawks, it's been, how do you get to 3? Hey, Wes Trueblood, good evening, sir. Oh, do not. I understand that whole work thing. I get it. I'm just glad that you're here. We're talking that other team that we enjoy, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the struggles they've been having. Just getting 3 goals. This is already their 4th game in the month of December. They have only put up 3 goals once, and that was on December 1st in a game against the Blue Jackets where they got blasted. The Hawks, it's almost like they have a governor on them that prevents them from getting anything more than 2. You look at just how many times here in the last month. And, they're in the midst of a 5-game losing streak. They've scored more than 2 goals one time. They scored 3. Otherwise, it's 2 against the Wild, 1 against the Maple Leafs, 2 against the Bruins, 2 against the Jets. And going back further than that, 1 against the Kraken, 1 against the 2 against the Wild in overtime. Only 2 against the Flyers. They just, it is a mix of everything right now at the Hawks. Really, it is the biggest thing is just, and in a lot of ways, just not being willing to shoot. Everybody's just not looking. Everybody's looking to make that extra pass. Their loss against Winnipeg on Saturday, they only managed, I think it was either 14 or it was 15 shots on net. I'm going to pull up the exact total here. It was 14 shots. That is a really strong period for most teams. To put that in perspective, the Rangers put up 15 shots in the first period tonight. They are very trigger shy. Nobody is looking to make that shot or connect. Now you're having some bad passing going on too. Just some really, really, really bad passing going on with the teams too. But all that ultimately results in Luke Richardson getting fired. And now Anders Sorenson comes up. Anders was the coach of the AHL Rockford Ice Hogs, so the minor league affiliate. He comes up. He's got some, he knows some of these guys well, has worked with some of the guys on the teams. Obviously doesn't have much of a rapport with Connor Bedard because Connor's never been in the AHL, the joys of bring up a Canadian teenager, as you pretty much have to put him in the NHL right away, or else keep him in Canada. But he still has a little bit of rapport with some of the other younger guys on the team, because the Hawks have really concentrated on using Rockford as a developing ground rather than trying to say go win the Calder Cup like some of the other teams in the AHL. They have really focused on no. This is a development team. We are using this to develop for the pros. But you could almost argue that could be just as bad of a problem, because when you do that, a lot of times the same system, whatever system you're running in the NHL, you run the same system then in the AHL, and the system has obviously been broken for the Hawks. So Anders is this. Now, this was an interesting little tidbit. He is apparently the first ever Swedish-born head coach for the Hawks. So good for him there on having that little tidbit. But it didn't exactly work out great in the first game out Saturday night against the Jets. The Hawks lost 4-2. And like I said, they managed just the 14 shots on net, only the 2 goals. Now, to be fair to Anders, welcome to the NHL. You get Connor Hellebuck, who might be the best goalie in the NHL for your first game. And then for your second game, Monday night, you get Igor Shesterkin, who if Hellebuck is number 1, Shesterkin's number 2. Now, the Rangers are reeling almost as much as the Hawks are. The Hawks on a 5-game losing streak. The Rangers are also struggling as well here in the current guys. They have, I know they've dropped 7 out of their last 9, and in their last 10, they are 3-7-0. So the Rangers also needing a bit of a bounce back. At the end of 2, the Hawks are up 2-1. We'll see how this plays out. How this plays out for the Hawks at this point. This third period has been the troublesome spot for the Hawks. We'll see if they're able to hang on. It is Arvid Soderblom in net tonight, who's been better, but we're going to be seeing a lot of him in the coming weeks too, because Peter Mrazek got placed on injured reserve over the weekend. He got placed on injured reserve. They said it'll be probably a couple weeks before he's back with a lower body injury. So we'll be seeing a lot of Soderblom. Oh boy, he's been better this season, but still you're hoping for some better results there. All right, we are going to take for ourselves one more quick break. And then Ricky asked in the comments section there, he brought up, what do we think is going to happen with Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert? We will be discussing that plus some other things on the flip side, because the winter meetings are going on down in Dallas. So there's going to be all kinds of dealings, rumors of dealings, signings, and Scott Boras standing on a box and doing poetry. All kinds of fun things coming up. We will try to get you set up for that here next on Chi-Town Weekly, part of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back on into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Karnick back with you for about another 10 minutes or so of the show here tonight. Before we go any further, by the way, I want to just remind everybody of a programming note for next week's show. Since the Bears game is going to be going on right now next week, yay. Oh, goody. We will not be doing this show at its regular time. My plan right now is next week I will jump on right as soon as the clock strikes 0 on the fourth quarter. I'd say when the game ends, but based on yesterday, that could be 5 minutes into the second quarter. So when the fourth quarter officially ends, I will jump on. It'll probably be a truncated show. It probably will not be a full hour long show like we normally do. Frankly, just because I have to get up and work the next day, and so I need to get some beauty sleep. This doesn't happen naturally. This doesn't happen all by itself, folks. It takes a lot of care and self-destruction to get hair that looks like this. So not a full show next week, but the plan right now is to jump on once the Bears game is officially done, and we'll do basically a Bears recap show at that point next Monday night. So just a quick programming reminder for next week, since it'll be definitely different. Let's talk some baseball, shall we? A little bit different with the winter meetings getting set to start in Dallas. Lots going on. Obviously, all of the general managers, the presidents of baseball operations for teams are all gathering. This is a time where rumors fly, where actual deals get done, where the groundwork for deals that might take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road, but the seeds will get planted here with these meetings. Agents, aka Scott Boras, get opportunities to just work the room and pound the table for their guys that haven't signed or are looking to move or pending or free agents. All kinds of happenings going on as everybody's down in Dallas getting ready. We had the first huge domino fall last night with Juan Soto signing, going from the Yankees, going across town to Queens, going to the Mets on a massive 15-year, $750 million deal. The biggest deal in the history of professional sports here in the U.S. But that sets the groundwork and kind of that was the first domino that everybody was kind of just holding on and waiting and seeing where is he going to go. Well, now that he has landed, hopefully we'll be able to see some other things go there. And actually, since Ricky brought it up in the chat room, this will be as good a spot as any to start. Ricky was asking, do I think that Garrett Crochet gets traded this week? How about Luis Robert? Obviously talking some White Sox, and we may as well start there. There are actually rumblings and rumors flying that the Cubs and Sox could be looking to make a deal. It's the two have been willing to make trades with each other recently to take on some of their own, to take on some of their own players. So there's no longer the fear or anxiety of those two working with each other. And Chris Getz actually got asked that very thing earlier tonight. I want to pull up the quote. I saw it. Longtime veteran Chicago baseball reporter Bruce Levine had this quote. This is from just about 20 minutes ago. This is White Sox general manager Chris Getz on working out a trade from Crochet to the Cubs for some hitting prospects. Quote, if there's a match, there is one. If that means us knocking on their door, so be it. So Chris Getz not afraid at all to do a deal with the Cubs. The Cubs have, and Luis Robert, I think absolutely the White Sox would be looking to trade him. I'd be curious to see what kind of a market there would be for Luis Robert. There's certainly a bigger one for Garrett Crochet. And I would think, man, for the Cubs, everybody needs help with pitching, but absolutely the Cubs, there is an obvious need there for starting pitching. You're not getting Kyle Hendrickson is almost certainly going to sign elsewhere this offseason. He wasn't really doing that much for you this year anyway. He was very up and down, very up, and he had moments where he was the professor, and he had moments where he was unusable, just completely unusable. So to shore up, I mean, you still have you have some good starters at the top of your rotation, but you can never have enough pitching in baseball. And certainly, to be able to have 3 through 5, to use Garrett Crochet or, to use him to move somebody like maybe Shota Imanaga down to 3, perhaps, so you can do some different handedness in your starting rotation. That would be outstanding. The Cubs have their own guy that they're going to be looking at moving. Is Cody Bellinger going to be on the move for the Cubs? Remember last offseason, Bellinger signed what was effectively 3 consecutive 1-year deals with the Cubs. It was a 1-year deal with 2 player options tacked on at the end. Bellinger decided to opt in for the 2nd year, but the Cubs are looking to move on from him. Now that Juan Soto has signed, we could see some increased interest there for Bellinger. He played some right field last year. He certainly could be used in that regard, especially if you're looking for a little bit, his bat, it's interesting. His bat is really good for a center fielder. If he's going to be an everyday right fielder, you're probably going to be looking at him. You're probably going to be relying on him to have a little bit more power. So what are teams going to view him as? Obviously Juan Soto, that bat was huge for the power numbers. You didn't care really where you used him, but Bellinger, you're going to be using him in the field. So where you're going to be using him becomes a little bit more important. Obviously the Cubs, Pete Crow Armstrong, you want him to be the everyday center fielder. So what does that mean? And you don't really have that first base option necessarily there for Bellinger anymore. So do you like him as a right fielder, or do you think that he can be served better by moving? The rumors and rumblings are, it looks like Cody Bellinger will be on the move, that somebody, that the Cubs are actively shopping him. They're looking to make a deal. All the usual suspects, basically anybody that missed out on Juan Soto. We'll see now if Hoyer and Carter Hawkins come back and go to those guys. So maybe like the Dodgers or the Yankees or any of the other teams that missed out on Juan Soto. Hey, Cody Bellinger's not a horrible consolation prize. It certainly is a lot less expensive of a prize there. Another name to keep an eye on is going to be Roki Sasaki. We're going back to Japan, just like we had last year at this time, where there was a lot of talk about some Japanese pitchers coming over. Shota Imanaga, he wasn't the prize coming out of Japan last year, but obviously that worked for the Cubs. Well, there is another young, phenomenal starting pitcher that has been posted. So Roki Sasaki, who I've read that some scouts feel that he has the best split finger fastball in all of baseball, and a triple digit 4-seam fastball to go along with it. That's something that, man, I've been saying this basically as long as I've been doing this show, that boy, the Cubs could use somebody that gets into triple digits with regularity. It's clearly not something they prioritize for their starting pitching, but boy, it feels like that could really be something that would help them. It would help everybody. You'd say that the Sox probably won't show any interest, but then again, Sasaki, due to complicated baseball rules, Sasaki will not be a terribly expensive investment for whomever decides to go after him. Because of how young he is. He's only 23. He has limited experience overall in the Japanese professional system. I believe he has 6 seasons in. So he's capped at how much money he's allowed to make by Major League Baseball. They basically are viewing him, Major League Baseball would view him as an amateur. So therefore you're capped at how much money you're allowed to offer him in a contract, which makes him available to anybody. The White Sox, quite honestly, I know that they are allergic to spending money, but Roki Sasaki would be a heck of a get, especially if you're trading Garrett Crochet. You need somebody at the top of that rotation. He's 23. You can still be doing the whole rebuild thing and still have terrific control on a great young pitcher. I know that it's a pipe dream to see him with the White Sox, but for the Cubs, it makes sense. We saw that they were willing to do it last year. They brought in Shota. For right now, at least, they still have Seiya Suzuki. So you'd have a couple countrymen there to help make him feel comfortable. They'll have their international pool isn't completely spent, and Sasaki is waiting till the new year to officially sign a deal so that everybody's international pool will have a chance to get as full as it can. Obviously, the Dodgers are going to be in play. We know that the Yankees are going to be in play. Your usual suspects are going to be in play here for this one. So something to keep an eye on, but there's going to be a lot going on down in Dallas this weekend. Even though it is the off season for baseball, there's still plenty to be discussing and going on. That is going to do it for our show here this evening. Big shout out and thank you to all of our sponsors. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. Go to planetjerky.net to place your order. All free shipping on all orders of $50 or above. Thank you also to Seal the Deal Wax Steels. You go to iesportsradio.com/Seal the Deal Wax Steels to place your order. And of course, thank you to IE Sports Radio for providing the platform by which this show and all of the shows on the network are possible. Find them on all the social media platforms by searching at IE Sports Radio, or go to iesportsradio.com to get the latest there on the station. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. 319 people watching the show live. 320 now. Thank you to everybody watching the show here live tonight. I really appreciate it, whether it was over Facebook or YouTube or Twitter. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody as well for all the behind the scenes. Larry B, all the hard work you do, sir, behind the scenes. Thank you to everybody that was hanging out with us in the chat room tonight. Wes Trueblood, Ricky Keeler, Matt Hendrickson, Andre of Dre Area Sports, Ralph Calise hanging out with us. Also, Karen Rodriguez and Yukio. Thank you all, gentlemen, for hanging out with us. Thank you again to everybody that was watching the show. No, it would be interested if you isn't able to watch live. Anywhere you get your podcasts, you can get this show. Amazon, Google, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. They are all there for you. Search IE Sports Radio. Search Chi-Town Weekly. Next week, again, we will be on a different time. We will be on right after the Bears game. Next Monday night, we will do a recap of the Bears game. Until then, everybody have a great week. Be safe. Get your holiday shopping done. And we will see you next week. Bear down.